Dawson Mercer not on the training camp roster. Kevin Labanc signed a PTO deal. And let's talk about the Prospects Challenge. There's a lot to break down in today's episode of Locked On Devils. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Scores! Oh, Steven stepped up, nailed it. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here on Locked On Network. I'm your host, Scott Hockey play announcer, Devils writer of Pucks Pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member, Trey Matthews. When this episode goes live, we'll be just a few hours away from the start of training camp. The veteran players have already reported to the Prudential Center, as you can see on the Devils social media pages. You see the players posing for pictures, doing fun things with the social media team. Funny enough, I don't hear Dougie Hamilton's voice behind the camera because that's the running joke that Dougie Hamilton is the social admin for the Devils. But hockey season is almost here, and we're just a few weeks away from the Devils traveling across the pond to Prague to open up their season against Lindy Ruff and the Buffalo Sabres. I know a lot of people are excited, and trust me, I'm no exception, but there's still some housekeeping tasks that the Devils have to deal with. The biggest one is Dawson Mercer. He still does not have a new deal. And I wish I could give you guys some good news, but honestly, I can't based on what I've been seeing on social media. The two sides are still talking. It comes down to money, and they're still nowhere close to an agreement, but at least they're still talking. If you would have told me that this would be ongoing until September, like if you were to tell me this back in June, I don't think I would have believed you. It's definitely frustrating. It's excruciating. I'm not worried, but it's just the frustrations are starting to grow, at least on my end. But like I told you guys, Dawson Mercer doesn't hold any arbitration rights. He's a restricted free agent. The ball is still in the Devils' court, but like I told you guys, Dawson Mercer, he had career lows this past season. And I know that Fitzy has said that Mercer is a part of the long-term plan, but I'm sure Mercer wants to get a juicier contract because he knows what his potential can be. But for the time being, things are still stagnant. But we're not going to talk about Dawson Mercer for the fifth time in the past few weeks. No, I want to talk about an interesting player that the Devils signed to a PTO contract, and that is Kevin Labanc. Did you call bank? No, we called Kevin Labanc. The former San Jose Sharks player this past season, he put up 9 points in 46 game appearances. He had 2 goals and 7 assists. Yeesh, not really a good outing for Labanc, who had a really good showing during the 2019 playoffs against the Vegas Golden Knights. And we'll get into that momentarily because I want to talk about Labanc's journey from being a promising player that was due for a big contract to getting that contract under unique circumstances. And now he has a PTO deal with the Devils. What are my expectations for him? Because similar to Dawson Mercer, he was coming out of an entry-level contract. He signed a 1-year extension with the Sharks, despite having a really good 2018-2019 season in which he had 56 points. And then he ended up getting a 4-year extension after that 1-year deal, despite his numbers taking a big dip. Because Labanc is an intriguing player. Then in the second and third segment, I want to give the young guys some love. The Devils were recently in Buffalo for their Prospects Challenge, and you saw some of the bright stars of tomorrow take the sheet of ice once again. Prospects like Sheamus Casey, Cam Squires, the head coach was Kevin Dineen. Something I'm going to do a little more often this upcoming season is play more sound bites for you guys, because what's the one thing I always say at the beginning of each episode? I am a part-time credentialed media member, meaning I go to some of the games, not all of them, but if I am in town on the East Coast, I will be at the Prudential Center, or if the Devils are close to me in whatever location I'm currently in, which is right now Florida, because as some of you know, I got an internship with the Florida Everblades. So if the Devils ever travel down south, I will be going with them if I am free. Basically, it's like you guys love it when I go behind the scenes and play you some sound bites. And the Devils do post some of those sound bites onto their respective YouTube page, and they have given me permission to use it on this show. That's what I'm going to do. I'll play the sound bites from Sheamus Casey and Cam Squires in segments 2 and 3. But let's focus on Kevin Labanc, the PTO signing for the Devils. All right. His journey is somewhat unique. During the 2018-2019 season, like I said, he put up 56 points. And that Sharks team was deep in terms of forwards. And Labanc was establishing himself as a solid asset. This kind of reminds me of the Devils situation with Dawson Mercer, because Mercer is a solid contributor, but the Devils are pretty deep when it comes to offensive weapons, especially with Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt, Timo Meier, you name it. This team is stacked when it comes to offensive firepower. But Labanc was able to make a name for himself, especially being on the line centered by Joe Thornton. And on the other winger was Marcus Sorensen. And he was actually a pretty good power play contributor. But I think a lot of people remember Labanc from the 2019 playoffs. Remember when the Sharks took on the Vegas Golden Knights, and that particular series went to 7 games. It was a dogfight, and he had a 4-point performance during a 5-minute major that helped the Sharks punch their ticket to the next round. They won 5-4 in OT. Basically, Labanc was due for a pay increase. Kind of reminds me of Dawson Mercer once again, because Mercer is coming off of his entry-level contract, and he was originally slated to have a big pay increase, but given the Devils' current cap situation and also how deep their team is, it's not really working into the favor of Dawson Mercer, but his time is coming. Digressing a little bit, Labanc re-signed to a 1-year, $1 million deal. And I think it's safe to say that puzzled a lot of people. But in the grand scheme of things, the Sharks were also in a cap situation. They re-signed Erik Karlsson to a big contract. Current Devil Timo Meier, when he was with the Sharks, he got a new contract with the team. And remember, after the 2018-2019 season, they parted ways with Joe Pavelski, and Pavelski ended up signing with the Dallas Stars. And Labanc, despite having a 56-point season, he only got a 1-year, $1 million extension. But it's just like, okay, this could be a prove-it year for him. Let's see what he can do. Unfortunately, his numbers took a turn for the worse. In 70 games during the 2019-2020 season, he had 33 points and a plus-minus rating of minus 33. Yeesh, not good. You would think that the Sharks wouldn't really offer him much, right? Because he didn't really deserve it. Wrong. He got a 4-year, $18.9 million extension, but unfortunately, he could never regain what he did during the 2018-2019 season, and that was kind of sad for Labanc. I was doing my research, seeing like, why did the Sharks offer him that sort of contract despite his numbers not really reflecting it? Because if they would have given that to him after the 2018-2019 season, that's justified. But like I said, they had to sign a few other players. But after the 2019-2020 season, in which he had an abysmal performance, it's like, why did he get that deal? There was a theory that former Sharks general manager Doug Wilson cut a deal with Labanc saying like, look, if you just sign this 1-year extension, we'll give you a pay increase no matter what the outcome is the following year. That's just a theory. I cannot confirm or deny that. But given his numbers, I don't think that's a far-fetched theory. But like I said, that's just a theory. And now, after a few mediocre seasons, and like I said at the beginning of this episode, he put up 9 points in 46 game appearances for the Sharks. Not really all that efficient, and the Sharks weren't really all that good either. But Labanc now signed a PTO deal with New Jersey, and his story is somewhat sad, and you kind of feel pity for him because he was showing some promise, but unfortunately, it just never panned out. All right. I know a lot of people are intrigued with Kevin Labanc, and rightfully so. He's not a big name player, but you definitely know who Kevin Labanc is. The thing is, like, I usually take PTO signings with a grain of salt. I always have been ever since I've been covering the Devils for the past 5 or so years. Labanc is just to add more bodies when the Devils travel over to Prague, because it was reported that the Devils will pack their bags and travel over to Prague on September 29th. And as you guys know, the Devils will still have some preseason games to be played before October 4th. And I think that's why they signed Kevin Labanc to that PTO. We'll see what he does during preseason, but I have no expectations for him, and I do feel bad for him. His story was intriguing and compelling, but at the end of the day, I don't have that many expectations for Kevin Labanc, and I do feel sorry for him, but we'll see what happens. Sharks fans and Devils fans, leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. What are your thoughts on Kevin Labanc and the Devils signing him to a PTO deal? I'm interested to hear your thoughts. All right. Before we swap over to the Prospects Challenge, let me tell you guys about FanDuel. You've heard me talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, I have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com, download America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com to look at the odds, and please remember to always gamble responsibly. Okay, like I said in segment 1, something I'm going to do throughout the course of the year is play more sound bites on this show, since I am a part-time credentialed media member and I want to share my thoughts on it. The Devils were recently in Buffalo participating in their yearly Prospects Challenge. It's usually a chance for, once again, similar to development camp, for some of the young guys to punch their ticket to the NHL, get their feet wet. Some notable players were Xavier Perrant, Chase Stillman, Sheamus Casey, and I also saw some highlights from Cam Squires. Let's play Sheamus Casey's soundbite first, and then I'll give you guys my thoughts on Casey and my expectations for him going into this season.
Seamus, wrapped up now. I'm sure that this last week has kind of gone by in a flash. What is it like now having this done?
It was a lot of fun, and I was looking forward to it for a while. But I think also hopefully going to main camp is also really exciting, and it's been my goal. So just kind of turn the page quick and get an off day, I think, tomorrow, and then get ready to work. So just excited to keep going. I
was going to say, how exciting is it now that this rookie camp is done and you're really moving into that where you're going to be around all those NHL guys on a regular basis?
We've talked about before, being around those guys is super cool and a good learning experience. So definitely ready to be around them and hopefully take some things in. But this camp was a ton of fun. I wasn't looking past it at all. Learned a lot. It was good hockey. So yeah. What
do you think the most important thing you learned, whether it's on ice, off ice, just from this short little stint here?
I think we've talked about just transitioning. How important it is to just take care of your body. Yeah. It's obviously something we talk about in school and all the way up, but you just see it 3 games in 4 days takes a toll, obviously. So just keeping your body in shape, and there's no other things to worry about now. There's no school, there's no class. Just all I gotta do is just make sure I take care of my body, but just keep learning to stay on top of those things. Any nagging stuff, just stay on top of it.
Do you like that sort of that your brain can now just literally fully focus on
24/7? It's cool. You finish practice workout, and it's all I gotta do is just make sure my hip feels good for tomorrow or whatever. Make sure this bruise is taken care of, that kind of thing. That's your job. So I think, but it's you gotta take it super seriously. And I think just keep learning that and keep building those habits.
What are you anticipating most from what's coming up in this next week?
It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm just excited to get started.
What do you appreciate about that type of toughness, going into something like this?
It's just competitive. That's why we do this. We love to compete. And when you're around guys that just compete like that, it's just, there's so much energy, and I don't know, it's just fun to be a part of,
Where do you set the expectation for yourself? How do you sort of gauge that?
It's tough. Just coming in, this is all so new for me. So expectations are tough. I think I just expect myself just to play my best. It's really hard to say what the expectations are. Like I said, I'm just happy to go wherever they think is best for my development. But I don't know. Expectations are tough.
I talked about this earlier in the summer. Sheamus Casey's future is very bright, and he had a really good performance while playing for the Michigan Wolverines in Ann Arbor. This past season, he appeared in 40 games. He had 7 goals, 38 assists for a grand total of 45 points. And he did gain some weight. He stands 5'10" and he weighs 180 pounds now, according to James Nichols of New Jersey Hockey Now, which is an ideal body frame. And like I've been saying in the past, I think Sheamus Casey need to add a little bit more weight just because he's a smaller guy. But I think Sheamus Casey is going to showcase a lot of offensive firepower once he's given that chance. But let me make something perfectly clear. I know Luke Hughes is out with injury, but I don't think Sheamus Casey should take his spot because Sheamus Casey needs to marinate in the AHL before he's given a chance at the NHL, in my honest opinion. I don't want to rush him. There's no reason to rush him. You still have some other options to go to, including Jonathan Kovacevic, Santeri Hatakka, Nick DeSimone. I don't want him to face the same burden that Luke Hughes and Shimo Nemeth had to face last season. Learn from your mistakes, and that's why Fitzy added more defensive depth in Jonathan Kovacevic. Sheamus Casey will do just fine in the AHL. That's what I'm projecting for him to do. And I think training camp is going to be interesting for him. But I think you just need to take your time with Sheamus Casey. There's honestly no rush. So I'm looking forward to seeing Sheamus Casey at training camp. And as always, he did well in an opportunity that was presented to him. And he is a work dog. But I think be patient and just trust the process. All right, let's talk about another player that seemed to impress during the Prospects Challenge, and that is Cam Squires. I had the chance to interview Cam Squires one-on-one during last year's development camp, and he was very well-spoken. He described his game. This past season, while playing for the Cape Breton Eagles, he appeared in 66 games. He had 33 goals, 39 assists for a grand total of 72 points. And I actually saw some of the highlights on social media. It seems like a lot of people, including myself, are very impressed with what Squires did during the Prospects Challenge because he knew how to stuff the stat sheet, and he was getting his name into the score sheet game after game after game, and he was having some solid production. I think Cam Squires is definitely another prospect that the Devils should keep their eye out. Obviously, he signed to his entry-level contract for a time being. He was selected in the 4th round back in 2023. He's a great playmaker. He plays with great speed, and he knows how to attack and create good looks for himself. And we saw that because it was quite evident during the Prospects Challenge. Here's what Cam Squires had to say to Amanda Stein at the conclusion of the Prospects Challenge.
Wrapped up now. What do you sort of take from this last week heading into main camp?
I think it was a good learning experience again. I always come here and it's always fun. It's fun playing hockey. It's fun playing with good players against good players. I think we did a really good job as a team. We came out, we had 2 good wins, and we made it a close one today. Learned a lot, and you get your feet under you as the tournament goes on. You just prepare for the week ahead, and you look to earn a spot and then go prove yourself along the way.
And what does that sort of look for you in terms of proving yourself as you head into a main camp?
Yeah, I think it just looks like just putting your best foot forward and bringing every day the pillars that the Devils want to bring to their team consistently during the season. They're setting up for a winning culture. They've got a great history as an organization. And I think just showing up every day and doing the stuff you can control, your work ethic, your compete level out on the ice. So for me, I think it's just moving your feet first, having a good stick, and I'm looking forward to the challenge ahead.
I was say, is it nerves? Is it excitement? No matter how many times you get to this point in your career where you're heading into this?
Yeah, it is. But at the end of the day, it's always fun for me.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate to be able to play where at the level that I'm at. And there's a lot of guys who wish they were in these guys' positions. So to be able to bring that every day and show up and side by side against the level of competition they have here is a lot of fun. So you're nervous at times, but then at the end of the day, you just play your game and have fun out there.
Keep an eye out for Cam Squires because I think he has a lot of potential, and I think he's starting to get his name out there just a little bit more. All right, to close out today's episode, we're going to hear from Utica Comets head coach Kevin Denine. One of the things I love about Kevin Denine is that he gives his players a long leash in terms of making mistakes and developing as a player. I respect that from Kevin Denine, and he always is very well-spoken, and he always gives great insight when assessing prospects, and I think that's evident when the Devils call up a prospect and they have a solid, productive day at the office. Here's what Dineen had to say to reporters at the conclusion of Prospects Challenge.
Obviously a tournament wrapped up here. I think one of the obvious questions when you come out of a camp like this heading into main camp is there anyone who particularly stood out for you that put themselves in a really good spot going into main camp?
I think there's always, there's a couple people that catch your eye. Mike Diot would certainly be one on the back end that made a really good impression on us. I felt like his game showed a little maturity beyond his years. Molofsky, our draft pick, I thought had a real solid camp. Max Graham, another draft pick this year, I think made a really good impression on us. So, I could almost go through the whole roster and pick out guys, but I would say those are the fellas that really kind of gave us the kind of guys, no matter how the next couple of weeks falls out, you end up following them all the season.
And how impressionable can a tournament like this be, beyond going into a training camp and just the staff remembering what was accomplished, what they were able to do?
Well, that's the whole point of it. You want to get eyes on you, and there's a lot of discussions on how this will impact you moving forward. It's a short little snapshot. It's 4 days of hockey, and at the end of it, with the amount of NHL management that's here watching you, I think it is an important thing, and I think they rise to the occasion, and if they don't, that might say something about them as well.
And what is your message now to your group? Everyone's leaving, you're all heading back now to New Jersey. What is your message as things really change here now?
Well, enjoy tomorrow, day off, they need it. It'll be a good stiff skating test moving into main camp, be ready for that, and understand that now this is just the beginning, that it's a long road, but be prepared for your next step, which will start on Wednesday.
Do you think it can be overwhelming for some, maybe especially those who haven't been to a main camp before? Do you sort of remember what that could feel like?
I don't think overwhelming. I think there's a level of hard to put a word on it, but you get fired up for it. You don't want any shouldas or couldas as these camps end, so you leave it out on the table, but there's always those question marks. Maybe could have done a little something different, but that's just human nature.
And then lastly, in a tournament like this for these guys, when you're probably a lot more among your peers than they will be going into main camp with established NHL guys, what's the difference between standing out at a camp like this, like we just talked to, versus what they need to accomplish to stand out at the next level? And maybe those are two different things, standing out.
Yeah,
right?
That's a big difference, right? I think it's like everything. It's a process that get drafted, have a good development camp, come to rookie camp, hopefully get invited to main camp, and then, get to know the people, get to know the coaches, and it would be nice for a lot of these players to get on the radar of, Sergei Brylin or Ryan McGill or hopefully Sheldon Keefe. Those are the kind of things that those players will want to do.
Obviously, we'll see some of these prospects come training camp, and there is a spot open to replace the injured Luke Hughes, but I'm anticipating for that to go to either Jonathan Kovacevic, Santeri Hatakka, maybe Nick DeSimone. We'll see what happens. And I know a lot of people, including myself, are concerned about Dawson Mercer not being on the training camp roster, but he can't be added to the roster until he signs a new deal. And I'm hoping it comes into fruition at some point because I am getting quite frustrated with it. I don't know about you guys, but I've talked about it long enough. Let me know what you guys think about Kevin Labanc, Dawson Mercer's contract, and the Prospects Challenge. Were there any other young guns that surprised you? I think I'm going to get a comment from Jersey Joe in a few hours, but right now he's actually overseas on a vacation. He's my Prospects go-to guy. I'll probably hear from him once this episode goes live. But once again, I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on podcast streaming service, hit me up on my personal X page app at TreyMatt4 or the show's X page app at Locked On Devils. As for today's episode, that's all the time I have for you. Continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day, New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening once again.